Good afternoon. I'm Brent Hill. I'm a member and director of the Buxton Hollis Historical Society. I'd like to talk to you about the Buxton Hollis Historical Society. We've done many programs over many years on many different subjects, local and closely related subjects to the history of our area. But I don't think we've ever done a program on the Buxton Hollis Historical Society itself. We did that at our annual meeting this past November, and I think it was well liked, and I'd like to talk to you today about it. The Historical Society has two different faces. Most people see the public face. I'll talk a little bit about that, but mostly I want to talk about what the part of the Historical Society that most people don't see, the work that goes on in the background, the work that enables us to preserve our history of Buxton and Hollis. This first slide is a image of our building and some volunteers who helped get us into the building. We're at 100 Main Street in Bar Mills, and we have very good space for what we do. We have space for our library, museum, our exhibits. We have space for our meeting room, and we have space to have people come in and talk to us about our history. Next slide is about our programs. We do maybe up to 7 programs a year, and most of them are videotaped, and they're available on local cable TV, and we're also available on the internet either through Vimeo in the past, or currently we're using YouTube. And this slide shows some of our current programs, and you can also find it on our website, buxtonhollishistorical.org, if you want to dig into that more. Next slide shows our N.C. Watson School at Buxton Center. We're very fortunate to preserve the school, one of the last one-room schools in the area, and it was used, as the sign says, as a school from 1900 to 1942. And we're currently running programs for school children with the one-room school, and we'd like to do more with it if we could. It's good space. It's occupied by a lot of school desks, but it's very interesting to see how schools operated until just after World War II. Another public item is our newsletter. We put that out maybe 4 times a year, and I'd urge people to join just to get our newsletters. They're pretty informative, and we put the history articles into it and all the doings of the Historical Society. Next slide is our Bar Mills, and it's about our Bar Mills and West Buxton exhibits that we have at 100 Main Street. First one is All Roads Lead to Bar Mills, and the other one is about West Buxton Village. And these are good exhibits for us. Both of them cover around 100 years of history, and those are 100 years where we have photographs, images, maps. You see the industry of the area, you see the people, you see what they were doing. We've got a lot of good artifacts there, a lot of good images. I well recommend that you come see our exhibits for these two Hollis and Buxton villages. The other thing that people see about us, of course, at 100 Main Street is our research library, where we can look up local history, genealogy on local families, and the history of the local buildings that we have. We have a good inventory of older buildings in the area that are well worth preserving. Now, these are our public activities. Out of sight, in the background, are the main activities of our volunteers. And I want to talk to you about that because those volunteer activities are really key items in preserving our history. Next slide goes to one of our 4 ongoing projects. We always have 4 projects running all the time, and the first one is accessioning and cataloging. We're very fortunate. People give us good donations. They come up with the most interesting things, tell us about our history and the area. We have a program. Everything's run, of course, with computers these days, but you don't have to be too consumer savvy to help work on this history. We have a lot of ongoing activities that don't require computer work. But the key thing is we like to keep things on the computer in digital format in order to preserve things and preserve them in different locations where we can get at them and find them easily. We currently have about 4,180 objects that we've accessioned for the Historical Society since 1970. And it's growing all the time. We receive generous donations. Currently we have about 2 people that work full-time on, or volunteer time for accessioning and cataloging, and we could always use some more. This image that you see here is a very common item. It was used for around 100 years in this form, and much like, today kids don't recognize rotary dial telephones. They might look at it and say, "What's that?" Well, a lot of people would look at this and say, "What is it?" It's obviously a cute octopus painted on the bottom, but it is a common household bathtub. And we received this with a generous donation of the Weeman family. It's a very nice bathtub. It has a nice seat. It has a soap dish, and you can't see it in the image, but there's a nice drain there, so you don't have to lift it up to get out the water. Now this was a fancy item because we know as late as the 1920s we have the history of a young lady who came to Buxton Center to teach, and she boarded at a nearby house and had to take a bath or a shower in a wooden bucket. But this was the very fancy thing. They had them around 1840 to 1940 in that time period, long before people had any running water in their house. Here's another donation from the Weeman family. This is a so-called deacon's bench. It looks real good, real nice, and it is nice. It's been refinished by Bob Weeman very well. This would have been used in a Grange Hall or a church. And this particular one I remember as being very old in the 1950s. It looked old in the 1950s, but Bob refinished it at some point and has it in great shape. Another donation. This doesn't look like much, but it has a key tie to our history. This is Dr. Drummond's medicine bag. This is the bag he'd taken when he did house calls, which is a unknown thing these days, but he'd take this out on house calls. He'd have medicines and a stethoscope, which shows here in the bag. And what you can't see, what's not shown here, and I can't show you, is the smell of it. This bag smells like a doctor's bag. I don't know what it is, liniments, medicines, something, but it just has that odor. And so this is a recent donation, but we put it up in our Bar Mills exhibit with other items from Dr. Drummond. Next slide, our pair of snowshoes. I have snowshoes like these, but these were donated by a lady here in Bar Mills, and they're pretty typical snowshoes for a long time in Maine. And by long time I mean these snowshoes were used in this form for 2,500 years in this area, and these two are in pretty good shape. Unfortunately the technology has changed to plastic and aluminum, but they're really excellent examples of the snowshoes that we always had, and I doubt you can get any of these days made of all that woven rawhide. And of course, this next slide, this is always things that stump us for a while. This is a press. This is a donation by the Ryder family in Groveville. And they brought it in, and we asked, well, what is it? What sort of press is this? And they didn't know, and I didn't know, and other people I asked didn't know, and we're pretty sure, we knew it wasn't a book press, which tended to be made out of steel. It wasn't a flower press, and it certainly wasn't an apple press. So we were scratching our heads till one of our volunteers, I think our librarian, came up with an image off the internet, and we discovered that this is a linen press. So not something that has been used in 100 years or so, but something that was very handy when linen was the primary textile before cotton came into widespread use. They've also made these into pieces of furniture, and nowadays even the furniture takes the name linen press. But linen was a little bit stiffer, and this is an example, and it comes from the area, and it's just amazing to us to see this little piece of history from 200 years ago. The next slide gets into our second major ongoing activity, which is image scanning. We can say a lot of words about history, but of course a picture's worth 1,000 words, and so we have thousands of pictures, thousands of images. We collect a lot of images, prints, negatives, slides. We can scan, and what we do is we scan them and digitize them to preserve them for a long, long time. And we can do everything except photographic plates, glass plates, and we can make arrangements with other historical societies to get those scanned. This particular image is of Juanita Atkinson Vachon. She was at Buxton High School. This is her 1943 senior picture. We have a number of senior classes, the images from those classes, very interesting. Some people who are gone and passed away now, but clearly lived long, full lives. And of course, Juanita was the mother of one of my classmates, actually, Juanita Vachon. So it's nice to see her. This next slide is this one we scanned recently, and it is from 1912. It is the wagon that went to the Bar Mills Railroad Depot and picked up people from out of town who came in for the Dorcas Fair. The Dorcas Fair was held in several different places over the years, and this particular year, 1912, it was held at Pleasant Point. So the wagon picked them up at the railroad station, took them down to Pleasant Point, and they had a good time there in the big open fields, which are now thick, heavy woods. But to give you a perspective on this, this wagon was hauling Dorcas Fair participants. Nowadays, the Dorcas Society is fortunately still with us and active, and sponsors an old antique car show every year. And those antique cars, of course, were never even thought about when the Dorcas Fair was ongoing in 1912. Here's a rare image that we have. It's not the best photograph, but you can clearly see the eroded banks down at Pleasant Point. And this gentleman is Gibeon Eldon Bradbury Jr. From probably the 1950s when he was an elderly man. And his father, of course, was the famous Gibeon Bradbury, the painter, whose images are so wonderful for being done in this area. And we've been surprised with this image and some other evidence. We've been able to determine he is the one who took a lot of glass plates, glass images, glass plate negatives, and that form the basis for our postcards. The old postcards that you see of Buxton, Hollis, he took many of the images. They're not signed or anything. We can't be sure exactly which are which, but we know now that he took quite a few of them. And now we have a couple images of him. This image was this past year also acquisition, a donation from a lady in Hollis. And this is one of the earliest images we have of the area. It's the choir at the Torrey Hill or Congregational Church, First Congregational Church of Buxton. And they're a very serious group, and I suspect they were a pretty good choir. There's two sopranos, two altos, a tenor, a bass, a pianist, and they looked like they were ready for business. 1855. This is as early as we get for area photographs. And the important thing here too is the lady on the back row left, as her head tilted there a little bit, is Jenny Akers Bradbury. She is the mother of Gibeon Bradbury Jr., who we just saw, and she's part of the famous and fabulous Akers family of artists, and of course married into the Bradbury family of artists. So that's two areas that we do all the time, activities. Another area is document scanning. We have a nice flatbed scanner for images. We also have a nice fast scanner for documents, and we'll scan newspaper articles, genealogies, any sort of loose material, and we're up to about 1,800 documents scanned, about the same as the number of images. We've got 1,800 of those, and we still have plenty more to do. Unfortunately, we don't have any immediate backlogs in document scanning, but we do have quite a few images piled up for us to scan. Fourth area of ongoing activities is obituaries and biographies. We collect all the local obituaries. We like to know the history of the people. We've got some very interesting people in the area. This particular one, and we have about 2,000 obituaries. These would be a good basis for people wanting to write little stories about some of the important people in the area, like Dr. Arthur Wiley, who we see in this image. Dr. Wiley was one of the early doctors in town and a founder of the Buxton Hollis Hospital, and coincidentally father of one of our key Historical Society members, Olive Wiley Hannaford, who was a beloved teacher, writer, and Historical Society member. Likewise, on obituaries, we have Nathaniel Miller. This is an old photograph, maybe older than that 1855 one, and also his wife, Mary Woodman Miller. Now they lived in what was later the McKinney and Wiley and Drummond houses on the Hollis side of Bar Mills, and they were deeply involved in Mary's father's sawmill operations. This again is a donation from the Drummond family, and we're really grateful to have such early photographs of important people in the area. Speaking of important people, this is someone we hardly ever see. I don't know another image of him. This is Richard Libby. Richard Libby is the brother of Eliza Libby. Some people may know because of the Eliza Libby School, or even the fact that she was a longtime principal and faculty member at Buxton High School. But Richard grew up in Buxton. He retired in Buxton, and as the caption says, he was called Mr. Department of Education. Now, he earned that by being perhaps the only person in the Department of Education at the time in the 1920s. But he was there, and he kept things going, and this was the period of time when Nowadays the Department of Education makes rules and regulations and employs hundreds of people and millions of dollars of money, but this is back when he was the only staff, and the legislature made the few rules, like requiring attached lavatories to the schoolhouses in the 1920s, which was the big educational reform of the time. Finally, on obituaries, we have June Ross. This is a bowling team picture of June from the 1960s. But June was a wonderful person who cared about her community, and in her will, she left her house to the Buxton Hollis Historical Society, and it's been a key part of our financial foundation ever since. Next slide goes to another special project we currently have ongoing, which is the Hollis Architectural Roadside Survey. And we're looking at 400 or 500 houses in Hollis, well over 50 years old, and we're intending to catalog them all, record their architectural features, and file it with the Maine Historic Preservation Commission in early or mid 2025. We have some good Hollis people. I've been working on this, but we have some good Hollis people leading this effort: Rita Bradbury, Linda Toll, Julie Larry, and we're going to be doing a significant piece of work here. This is a significant resource for us. People are always interested in their houses. Department of Education always is interested whether they should take and tear down a house for a road job, things like that. We would like to keep and preserve the older examples of our community's architecture. This particular building, the image was donated by the Huff family, and it is a farm on 120 Salmon Falls Road in Hollis. It's just the picture doesn't, this image doesn't do justice. The picture we're given is larger and contains terrific detail. Next image is one of the oldest houses in Hollis. Oh, well, houses. It's the oldest building. This wasn't built as a house. This is the so-called carding mill on Carding Mill Brook near West Buxton. It's the old posted beam, although at some point it's had a concrete foundation put underneath it. As you can see, it's not in good condition. But it is a good example of early industry. This is 1840s industry in the West Buxton area. I understand the road, it's not often seen. This is a little off Route 35. And as I understand, there is something going on there. I don't know whether somebody's going to fix it up or what's happening. But we have the image, and we know what happened there over the years between being a carding mill and other uses, and even a slaughterhouse at times. Indian Cellar. This is an early 1950s image of Indian Cellar. The building goes back to the 1920s, and it was a destination. When cars were new, Indian Cellar was a destination, a place to go to. And it went on that way for quite a while until things changed around with, of course, you'd had gas rationing in World War II, so people couldn't go places. But the old building, I've been in it over the years, and it is good space, and we're very fortunate that the Saco River Theater has been able to raise the funds to move it and save the building and put it to good use as part of the theater operations. Now, of course, with the Hollis Roadside Survey, we have a companion Buxton Architectural Roadside Survey. Again, we have maybe 500 or so old houses, well, I should speak to this one. This one is the Theodore Elwell House. on Long Plains Road across from Elwell Farm in Buxton. This picture is circa 1910, and it goes together with another project we have. Theodore's papers from around 1810 were found in this house a couple of years ago and donated to the Historical Society. So 200 years old papers, legal papers, the happenings and doings of the town, just lying in a box, and we've been able to preserve them, and we will be publishing transcriptions of them too. So when you have things come together like roadside surveys, houses, all of a sudden you find interesting things going on. Lastly, we have this building here, on Depot Street. This was last known, some people know it as the Glass Company. It was mostly the Buxton Milling Company, a grain mill building, and it was built in the 1870s as one of the first reserve store buildings. It has had good bones to it. It's been torn down recently. It's been neglected for around 40 years, and so it's been about 40 years too late to preserve the building. But we do have this image preserved. We knew what was going on there. We even know before 1870 it was a key milling site for grain on the river. But now we have a little new house there. Well, those are the ongoing activities. We have a lot of special projects going on, and video archiving is one. We have about 175 videos we've taken over the years, and we need to get those in common format and well listed and preserved in good media. This is a little bit of a technical project, but it's video, like images, are a key thing to preserving our history. I mentioned before our bar mills and West Buxton exhibits. We're currently updating those as we find new artifacts to put in. And what we'd like to do is take these exhibits and create a video version of them, something that gets us away from just the building, but gets us to a wider audience by showing the video. So some work needs to be done there to create that video from the exhibits. This is one image from the Bar Mills exhibit, and it shows the Maine Historical Preservation Commission's viewpoint of a historic district in Bar Mills, encompassing both the Buxton and Hollis sides. So this could be a historic district, much like the Salmon Falls East and Salmon Falls West historic districts are. But it is something that the people of the district need to want to raise historical awareness, something that Buxton Hollis Historical Society would gladly help to form a district, but it has to be at the initiative of the people in the area. This slide shows Marilyn Bartlett and her friend Spencer Stewart. Marilyn was a longtime member of the Historical Society, gave us many donations over the years, did a lot of good things for us, including some transcriptions of key documents into the Maine Historic Preservation Commission. And Marilyn grew up on Harmon Road. Harmon Road, which is just a spur off Rankin Road. So she knew everyone on Rankin Road, and she's left us a trove of documents about Rankin Road, and we're thinking we'd like to have a special project on the history of Rankin Road, something a little bit unique and different. And we have 3 people living on Rankin Road who would like to help out on that project. So that's something that will be happening for us. Of course, sales, we try to provide people with information. We have to publish and charge for our publications. We've recently been taking an inventory. We have quite an extensive inventory of materials. History of Hollis we've been fortunate the last couple of years. We finally have a good inventory of that through a donation by the Jewett family. I think the next step for us is we try to go online with that. It's a sort of unique skill. It is more of a computer skill, online expertise, but we like to preserve the history and also change with the times to do it. And part of that is computer networks. You'll find we have Wi-Fi at the Historical Society. We run computer systems and networks, and of course we need volunteers with expertise in that area. Finally, project for 2025 is a genealogy workshop. Nancy Pearson and I have done genealogical workshops in the past. It's been a few years, but we'd like to do it again for anyone interested in learning how to do genealogy, learning how to look into their family. This particular fan chart here we did for Sumner Hill's great-granddaughter who came to town last summer. Sumner's not related to me, but he's related to all the early families in Buxton. And this was something that his great-granddaughter had never seen before. This is his paternal line, and we also did one on his maternal line. That's our public and backroom activities, the things that the Buxton Hollis Historical Society is doing to preserve our history. We run entirely with volunteers. We don't have paid staff, but we try to do as much as we can and have a little fun and a good time doing it. Here's some contact information if you'd like to reach out to us. We have a telephone, answering machine, we have email. Any members you know, contact them. They can plug you into any activities because we're always looking for people who have interest in the history of Buxton Hollis. Thank you.